the SoloCam S220 by Eufy.
Tiny but mighty. We'll see how that actually holds up when we look at its performance against some of our other cameras. We'll be looking at it specifically against the Blink outdoor camera and a couple of hardwired PoE Reolink cameras. I have these other cameras here because this video is actually going to be part of a series in which I test all of these different cameras against each other and try to determine which camera is the best among these. We'll look at things like battery life, performance, feature set, and of course, video quality.
Starting with the specs.
Looking at the size of the Eufy, it's not actually that tiny when we compare it to other cameras, but it is pretty small for the features that it packs. It measures 3 inches by 4 inches by 2.25 inches, roughly, which is about the same size as 3 decks of playing cards stacked together. It falls somewhere in the lineup between Eufy's Eufy Cam 4K Solar and Eufy's S230. For resolution, we're looking at 2K or 2304 by 1296 at 15 frames per second. According to their website, the camera only supports infrared night vision or black and white. However, you can change that in settings, and if you have enough ambient light, you actually can see in color on the Eufy Cam S220. However, your detail is probably going to be better in black and white anyway. The camera has 135 degrees of diagonal field of view. It has a PIR sensor range of 30 feet, which of course we'll test. It has person detection, so you won't get a ton of unnecessary alerts. It also has two-way audio. And it's compatible with the Homebase 3, which, unlike the Eufy Cam product line, isn't required to get your camera up and running. It does, however, only support 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi, which for some people who are going to have their camera far away from the router might be ideal. However, I have very good 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi coverage in my home, so I would really prefer to have seen a 5 gigahertz connection option, but it's really not that big of a deal. Really, there's not very many cameras on the market currently that offer a 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi connection for a battery camera. For storage, it has 8 gigabytes built in and does not support RTSP. So you're not going to be able to connect this to an NVR. According to the website, you can store up to 3 months of footage at 400 seconds captured daily or 20 20-second clips. Of course, your storage as well as your battery life is going to vary greatly depending on your settings. One feature that it is missing is the built-in spotlight. That's to help keep the form factor small, but if you do want the spotlights, you can upgrade to the Eufy S230, which does include the spotlights and is quite a bit bigger. Now what makes this camera especially unique? The built-in solar panel. The solar panel comes in at 0.9 watts. For reference, most external solar panels that you would use to power one of these claim to be between 4 and 7 watts. And of course, that comes at a much bigger footprint. But it does seem that this solar panel is enough in most circumstances to keep the battery going. One other thing to keep in mind when shopping for a battery camera is the ecosystem. For Eufy, the ecosystem includes wired cameras, but no PoE cameras, video doorbells, although the wired video doorbell version can't connect to the home base, which is honestly, I think, kind of silly, as well as home security systems, although with a very limited selection of sensors. And of course, you get all of this with no monthly fee, which is arguably one of the best things about the Eufy ecosystem. There are a lot of features. If you get the Homebase 3, you get the advanced AI, and you still don't have to pay a monthly fee. In the box, we've got our camera. And we can see the solar panel on the top. We've got our USB port there, our sync button, our standard 1/4 inch mount. Overall, a pretty solid looking camera. Got our quick start guide, and we've got our mounting solution. Got some screws and anchors, and our USB-C cable. The mount will just screw on the back like that. And then, looks like we'll unscrew this piece. That'll give us our tightening on the ball socket once we actually get everything screwed in. This piece actually comes out. It will make it a little easier to put our screws in. Then we'll put in our piece, which we'll tighten on the ball socket. Screw everything together. There we have it. So now that everything is unpacked and out of the box, we'll go ahead and mount it on my test bench with all my other cameras, and we'll compare the video side by side with a few other brands to see how the video looks, and we'll do some testing. So getting started, we're going to go ahead and download the app. We'll go ahead and type in Eufy Security, download the app, then open it and skip through some of these initial prompts. Sign up and begin going through that process. I actually got an error saying that I already had a Eufy account, but I think it was the account from my vacuum cleaner and not a security account because I've never signed up for a security account. So something to potentially keep in mind as you're registering. And now my first login, I'm gonna go ahead and set up Face ID. And now we can set up our camera. So we'll go to Add Device, Battery Camera, scroll down to S220, select your network, and then select router or home base. Obviously, if you don't have a home base, then you're going to select on your router, which is what I'm gonna do. Next, we're gonna connect our camera to our Wi-Fi network. And when you're doing this, make sure that your phone or whatever device you're using to set up your camera is connected to the 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi on your network. Press and hold the sync button until you hear a beep. Then it'll generate a QR code for you to scan with the camera. Hold the camera so that it faces the barcode and it'll connect. Then you can go ahead and select a name and a battery profile. And we'll look at the customized recording options when we look at settings. And finally, we have some mounting instructions and a firmware update. And once successful, we're ready to use our camera. Installation is super easy just by first screwing in the base plate. Then pushing the insert into the base. Then screwing on the camera. And I found it easier to attach the piece that screws onto the base to the camera before attaching it to the base. Then I just rotate everything to the right to make sure it's all tight, and I make my adjustment. Getting into the app and settings, at the top left, you have the 3-line menu, which shows some of your general account settings, and importantly, your control center, which gives you access to your 2-factor authentication, as well as a lot of other account management type of settings. You can look at events, Edge AI. I assume that would also be different if you had the home base. You can look at your different security modes, and you can explore products. If we want to get into the actual settings on the camera, we press the 3 dots in our preview, and then the settings cog. We can toggle our camera, look at the edge network. Obviously, another thing you need the home base 3 for. Our motion detection settings, which without the home base 3, you're only getting either all motion or person detection. So you have to choose between those two. Because I'm doing human only, I went ahead and did high detection sensitivity. Even with that, I didn't really get any false alarms to speak of, but the camera was in my backyard, so it's not like I had a lot of foot traffic. We can set independent activity zones. We can also enter a motion test mode and get some tips for installation. In our video settings, we can toggle the watermark, adjust the streaming quality, the recording quality, the night vision, and set privacy zones. For audio settings, we can toggle our microphone, audio recording, our speaker, and adjust our speaker volume. For notifications, we can choose which type we want. I went with full effect because I want the text notification as fast as possible, and I'm okay with waiting a few seconds to get that rich notification with a thumbnail. You can also adjust motion alert tones and your switching notifications. We can share our device, give feedback, restart our device, remove our device. If we go into our dashboard, we can there see how well the solar has been charging our camera battery. We can look at our daily milliamp hours, as well as our total energy that we've gotten from solar power. If we go into our general settings, We can change a few things like the name of the camera, the status LED, Wi-Fi connection, things like that. If we go into our storage, we can see what our total used data is versus our capacity. And then here is where we can go into Power Manager. And then if we click on the icon next to Customize Recording, we can adjust there our clip length, our intervals between triggers, and also decide whether we want the clip to end early if motion stops. We do, however, get this note or notification that battery life will decrease if we're in this mode. However, I want to know what happens, and I don't want any chance of my clip prematurely stopping. And that pretty much sums up all the important settings. Now getting into our video quality testing. And up first, we've got the Eufy SoloCam S220 at 5 feet, 10 feet, 15 feet, and 20 feet. Next up, our blink camera at 5 feet, 10 feet, 15 feet, and 20 feet. Then our Reolink 2K camera at 5 feet, 10 feet, 15 feet, and 20 feet. And lastly, our Reolink 4K camera at 5 feet, 10 feet, 15 feet, and 20 feet. Now the Eufy at 20 plus feet, Blink, Reolink 2K, Reolink 4K. And now all at the same time. Here's a motion test and how footage looks at night. When walking across the camera angle, it does pick up at about 30 feet as promised. However, motion heading directly toward the camera is another story. I walked this path roughly 10 times and it didn't pick me up one of them. It is a little disappointing, but I'll discuss more about why I think that is in my final thoughts. For the motion alert notification test, I walked diagonally across the camera and I was picked up about there, and I received my notification about 6 seconds later, right there.
Hello, can you hear me now? Is this loud enough for you? You cut out. I think I can hear you better when you're like a little bit in front of the camera.
Overall, I really like this camera. I like the size and the build quality. Although it is plastic and it probably will yellow in time, it still seems like a quality build. The video quality was also quite good. I would say that it was on par with the wired Reolink 2K camera, which I think is saying something for a battery camera that doesn't require any cables or cords whatsoever. The app is quite enjoyable to use. It was fluid. It seemed pretty intuitive, and I didn't have to dig too often to find the settings I was looking for. I also love the fact that there is no monthly subscription required to utilize all the features of the camera. You do need the home base 3 if you're gonna unlock some features, but still no monthly fee. I think that's a pretty admirable thing coming from Eufy. And of course there was the one big thing that I really didn't like about the camera, and that was the lack of ability to reliably detect motion when it was going towards the camera. My blink didn't detect the motion any of the 10 times I tried it either. So it might just be something that's inherent with battery cameras, but for me, that means that I'm always going to be choosing a 24/7 recording option rather than on my primary security needs being reliant on a battery camera, at least until I find a battery camera that checks all the boxes. However, if you're looking for a battery camera that's super easy to install, delivers a lot of value, is very feature rich, and comes with no monthly subscription, the Eufy Cam could be a great option for you. You would have to put up with a couple of shortcomings, like its poor forward motion detection, but for the most part, it's a pretty solid camera. I hope that you found value in this video. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing. It would really help out our channel and continue to help us to produce quality product reviews. Until next time, be safe.